Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Today we begin with the coronavirus. Dr. Frank Esper is a pediatric infectious disease specialist at Cleveland Clinic Children's Hospital. Recently on CBN 700 Club, he told Pat Robertson how scientists are using brand new data to try to figure out what the virus will do next.
I think we still don't know exactly how this is all going to play out. This virus has been throwing curveballs at us from the beginning. But it's one thing to say, though, is that it's not just one big epidemic here in the United States. It's a bunch of little mini epidemics. What's going on in New York is very different from what's going on in Kansas, and what's going on in Kansas is very different from what's going on in Florida. And so each state, and even each city within each state is all going to have little different timelines for which we can, have to watch the virus very closely and try to do our best to stem that tide. But I don't know what the future holds, and we can only hope that things are going to get better very quickly.
What about these drugs? It used to be if you had malaria, you took quinine. That was the answer for malaria. Now they have a quinine distributed. Is that going to be effective, you think?
The answer is that when we're in the middle of an outbreak, we don't build new drugs from the ground up to fight this new infection. That takes years, if not decades sometimes. What we do is we dust off every medicine that we have on our shelves, things that were for a virus and things that weren't for a virus, and we try them all. And what we're finding is there's a bunch of different medications, one of which being the chloroquine that a lot of people have been talking about, that seems to have some effect on this virus and has been used in the past. Now, because we had SARS about 15 years ago and we had MERS about 7 years ago, we also had drugs for them. And so we took those drugs off the shelf and said, hey, can we use these against this coronavirus? There's several drugs that are very promising. Chloroquine is one that we've been using for decades, so we know it's safe. But we don't know exactly how effective it is or what dose we need to use it at. That information is going to be coming out. Other medicines like remdesivir, which is the medicine that was directly created for coronaviruses. We're going to have early data on that in a couple of weeks, and then we're going to really find out whether or not we have something that we can use to help people who are really, really sick.
Well, if a drug is designed for a particular use and it's used for another use, is a doctor permitted to do that if he wants to?
Yeah, welcome to pediatrics. That's exactly what we do here, because nobody designs drugs for children. And a lot of times they're designed for adults, and then we in pediatrics have to carefully, cautiously, and methodically use medicines for children who have very similar problems to make sure that we have the right doses, to make sure that they are able to tolerate those types of medications. We do it very carefully. But yes, just because if a drug is allowed by the FDA for one disease, it can be used for another disease if you have a little bit of information suggesting that it would work. It can't be approved for that second disease until it's gone through all the FDA regulations, which is what they're trying to streamline right now. The FDA says, we need to know how well it works against this coronavirus, but also what's the dose? Are there new side effects at that different dose? These things still have to be learned.
Well, we understand that the children were being pretty much spared the effects of this coronavirus. Is that true or not?
Well, I wouldn't use the term spared. Children can get sick, and we have seen children get very, very sick. Thankfully, though, they are not getting sick nearly as often as adults are. But that doesn't mean that they're off the hook. They can still get very, very ill, and they can still get very sick, but generally they tolerate this virus much, much better than older adults. And we just saw a great report that came out from the Centers for Disease Control that showed that young adults between 20 and 44 were also still getting very, very sick, but they were able to recover from that sickness much better than adults 65 and older. In the end, everybody needs to take care. Whether you're 2 years old or 102 years old, you need to make sure that you care for yourself and that you are trying to do your best in order to prevent yourself from getting infected at all.
One last thing, how the hospital, if there is a surge in infection with this coronavirus, are the hospitals able to take care of it?
You know, every hospital system is different. I can certainly tell you that here at Cleveland Clinic, we have been focusing on, you know, this potential surge of patients ever since we heard about this virus. Back in early January, we have been preparing and we have been figuring out new solutions to a possible surge. If we need to, in 72 hours, we can open up 1,000 new beds that weren't there before. We have mitigated you know, types of procedures and surgeries that aren't deemed absolutely necessary so that we can free up ventilators, that we can free up bed space, we can free up all the masks. We have been planning for masks and everything, so there's a lot of preparation that goes on right now, and it continues to go on.
Telehealth services have long been restricted by government regulations. But as Americans are urged to stay home during the COVID-19 pandemic, states are relaxing requirements and federal agencies are easing their strict rules in an effort to continue to provide health care services. Caitlin Burke has the details.
Across the country, Americans are being told to stay home and practice social distancing. But what happens if you need to see a doctor? The answer is telemedicine.
In a crisis such as COVID-19, our goal is to really benefit the public to decrease the risk of infection. And telemedicine is a perfect opportunity to do that.
Telemedicine gives patients the opportunity to meet with their healthcare provider virtually via video, phone, or text. The federal government has already expanded telemedicine options for those on Medicare.
What's really important about this is that the federal government is now recognizing the fact that the risk to our seniors of taking an in-person visit with their doctor is pretty high. And by limiting the telehealth benefits, we may contribute to the problem.
Telemedicine can be used for things that would typically send you to the doctor's office, like bronchitis, sinus infections, and prescription refills. It can also be effective in keeping patients who believe they may have COVID-19 out of emergency rooms or doctor's offices where they can spread the virus to others.
Right now, our most common visit is upper respiratory infection, which is, common cold, sinusitis, fever, cough. A lot of these symptoms are the same symptoms you see with COVID.
Telemedicine practitioners say they're still able to come to an accurate diagnosis by taking a patient's history and taking advantage of some other useful medical tricks.
While I might not be able to listen to someone's lungs, I could actually look at their respiratory pattern if they're actually breathing fast. We could actually have the patient take their own heart rate.
Medical providers around the country are now transitioning to telemedicine, and insurance companies like Anthem and Cigna are waiving patient copays for virtual appointments. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
When we come back, how churches are dealing with the coronavirus. Stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
The growing need for social distancing is forcing churches to think outside their walls. As Charlene Aaron shows us, one church has come up with a creative way to continue its mission and reach its community.
There are concerning reports coming.
When health officials took actions to further limiting public gatherings down to 10 people, Virginia Beach pastor Steve Swisher knew that meant closing the doors.
Initially, it was a hard decision just to think about it. And so we made the decision that, like many churches have, to suspend all public gatherings as we join together with social distancing.
Also, like many churches, Swisher is streaming his messages online.
Our worship team has begun to do worship in their living room and be able to send those feeds out. We've videotaped some devotional feeds, and then, of course, we do online church.
Wanting to serve even more people in its community, Essential Church created a COVID-19 need list on social media.
We put out a Facebook thread that simply encouraged our church to be the church during this season. And it just says, if you have a need, post a need. If you can meet a need, then answer the need. And this is, in just 2.5 days, this has had over 100 comments on it.
Swisher says most requests came from people outside his congregation.
We had a lady who's got an autoimmune issue, and she can't go stock up on supplies. And so we brought her some over-the-counter medicines. We brought her some food. Had somebody else who is in a hotel, so they have very limited ability to store things. And so we brought her some supplies as well.
The help hasn't stopped there. Given empty store shelves, the church came up with a creative outreach, a much-needed toilet paper drive.
We could begin to see that the stock supply at the local grocery stores was going down. Toilet paper was already gone from the shelves.
Many grateful for the help.
This means so much, especially with what's going on right now. To have a resource definitely shows the love of Jesus Christ.
We're so blessed to be able to actually go through the drive-through twice to be able to get additional toilet paper to be able to help some family members who are having a difficulty locating toilet paper, even online.
Meanwhile, Swisher believes these uncertain times are an opportunity for the church's light to shine bright.
It really just has the opportunity for the church to truly be the hands and feet of Christ during this season.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
God bless you. Small business owners are on edge, wondering about the long-term consequences of the virus. Once again, here's Charlene Aaron.
If you're heading to your local grocery store, you may find empty shelves, especially if you're looking for hand sanitizer, disinfectant, and even toilet paper. But that's not the case in other places. Many businesses feeling the pinch are in a prime position to lose revenue. According to the National Retail Federation, coronavirus will have a longer and larger impact on U.S. imports than originally expected. 40% of retailers surveyed are already seeing supply disruptions, and 26% expect to see more. For small business owners like Cindy Floyd and Brandy Brown, that means months before they get products back on the shelves.
I feel like some of our stuff is shipping slower than normal. So we might have missed a little bit of our window for the early spring shoppers. So the items are coming in maybe like a month or two later.
We carry one sock brand, the factory's closed down, and they don't have a time frame.
In business for 40 years, Cindy and Brandy say they never thought a virus would threaten their business.
Fall is really our biggest concern at this point. The stuff that we've been hyping people up for fall that's good, that we've already ordered might not get here in time for back to school photos or school pictures.
Brown says small things like buttons, zippers, and textiles are made in China. And while the outbreak is leveling off there and manufacturing is back up and running, it's going to be a game of catch-up.
They've seen in February the lowest manufacturing number in recorded memory. And so right now, their first quarter GDP is probably going to shrink where it was expected to grow 6 or 7%.
Dr. Andrew Root of Regent University's School of Business says the Federal Reserve is trying to get ahead of an economic slowdown.
They do a survey of various businesses, and in their survey, they ask, what is the likelihood of recession in the next 12 months? That survey went from a 20% reading to a 40% reading in a 2-week period. And so the Fed sees business confidence starting to decline, and they're trying to get ahead of that with their interest rate reduction.
It's going to take ingenuity, resources, and support from locals to keep small businesses thriving.
We just hope everybody continues to keep the shopping local because that's what we're depending on now.
The Trump administration is trying to raise funding for the Small Business Low-Interest Loan Program by $250 billion. It's part of the White House's $1 trillion stimulus package designed to help Americans during this crisis. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
In order to take care of others, healthcare workers on the front lines must ensure they also take care of their own health. That's why when around patients that may spread germs and disease by coughing and sneezing, healthcare workers wear N95 masks. Some hospitals report having enough N95 masks, but others are experiencing severe shortages and are taking action. NYU Langone Hospital, for example, is teaching their employees how to safely reuse a mask throughout their shift. Experts say people at home can make their own masks out of cloth, but worry that people who wear them may develop a false sense of security. Therefore, people who wear homemade masks should continue to practice the same social distancing and hygiene they would if they were not wearing a mask. When we come back, I'll look at the coronavirus response in Europe right after this.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
The coronavirus crisis has not been the European Union's finest hour, as nation after nation have sealed off their borders and leaders have begun fighting with one another. Dale Hurd has the story.
Whatever happened to all that preaching from Brussels about the glories of open borders? In Europe, that dirty word called nationalism has made a comeback, at least judging from all the nations that have closed their borders to protect themselves from coronavirus. Belgium even used a dumpster to block this route from the Netherlands. The coronavirus pandemic has shown the disunion among the nations of the EU. The European Union was supposed to be one community, but some of its nations aren't acting like it. A video summit of EU leaders last week intended to produce a rescue package ended in squabbling and paralysis, causing French President Macron to warn the fallout could spell the end of the EU.
I think it exposes the union for what it is, which is something very superficial and ultimately something that is not working.
Italian freelance journalist Alessandra Bocchi, who has written for the Wall Street Journal, told us the EU is so far failing perhaps its greatest test by being so slow-footed to help hard-hit nations like Italy.
Not only did the European Union not do anything at the beginning, it actually aggravated the situation from an economic point of view. And there was no solidarity because other European countries were just shutting down their borders. There wasn't really that kind of assistance that you would expect from a union.
As the world's second-largest economy, the European Union was built on the free movement of people and goods. The 26-nation Schengen area is supposed to be one huge zone without any border controls. Coronavirus has brought all that to a screeching halt, with a 37-mile backup at the German-Polish border, and similar scenes of traffic chaos across Europe. Already unpopular with a lot of Europeans, this crisis will not help the EU's image, when Brussels cannot even come up with a unified plan to help member nations in their hour of need. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
A growing number of states have banned elective surgeries in order to focus all resources on fighting the COVID-19 virus. Some abortion providers and states, however, have determined abortion to be an essential procedure. Paul Strand has more.
An interesting side effect of this pandemic is what it's done to the war over abortion. The president's task force has asked states to ban elective surgeries for now. And that's to help deal with the sudden emergency shortage of personal protective equipment, so necessary to guard the lives of those fighting this virus. But some abortion providers have been unwilling to go along, and that's led some states to ban abortion itself. And on the flip side, other states to specifically say it's essential.
The topic came up at one of the task force briefings.
Do you agree with states who are placing coronavirus victims above elective abortions, and should more states be doing the same?
Well, I think what we're doing is we're trying to, as a group, governors, and that's Republicans and Democrats, we're just working together to solve this problem. That's been what you're mentioning has been going on for a long time, and it's a sad event, a lot of sad events in this country.
New Jersey, Massachusetts, Virginia, and Washington state governors have all decreed abortion is an essential need, exempting it from any ban.
We know that abortion is essential health care. It is a procedure where time is of the essence.
Pro-life advocate Mallory Quigley questions the decision and points to the politics of abortion.
They've just put such an emphasis on the taking of an unborn human life, and I think it speaks to the stranglehold that the pro-abortion lobby has on so many in our nation's governments across the country.
But Texas, Ohio, Mississippi, Maryland, and Louisiana are insisting abortion stop in their states, so clinics' medical gear could instead go to fighting the pandemic. But that has led to a reaction of outrage. One activist tweeted, "Needing an abortion is time-sensitive and very essential to a person who needs one." Pro-life bioethicist Charles Camosi tells CBN News he's been watching this all unfold.
Even people who are going to die without a transplant, like a liver transplant, those liver transplants are being put on hold because they're not considered essential surgeries. How in anybody's right mind elective abortion could be in a different category? This beggars belief.
Some abortion clinic supporters go as far as to suggest this is all a plot. One saying the anti-abortion movement is using a public health crisis to essentially ban abortion. Another tweeted, even in a national crisis, they don't stop their relentless assaults on women and pregnant people.
I think that this is just classic abortion lobby anger and fear, lashing out at those who want to protect life.
What's still to be seen is how far a state's actually willing to go to stop abortions, where providers have been unwilling to comply with the ban. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
When we come back, filling in the gap for people who are hungry during this crisis. Stay with us.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crabb Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
The coronavirus epidemic is causing families to hunker down and wait it out. But Americans are not letting social distancing stop them from reaching out to one another through extraordinary acts of kindness. One restaurant in Hampton, Virginia, has handed out nearly 400 lunches to kids in need. Here's CBN's Talia Wise.
In response to the coronavirus, the owners of Mango Mango are handing out free bagged lunches to school-aged children. They say it's their duty to spread love in the community. I spoke with the owners, as well as a few families who say this couldn't come at a better time. How is having access to these lunches helpful for you guys at a time like this?
It definitely reduces a lot of stress in a time when grocery stores are going less on food and we're used to the kids in school getting free lunch as it is. So it definitely brings a lot of stress off having them home.
I'm thankful that they are reaching out in this way, that they're helping provide. If not, then we would have to walk even further to other locations for resources.
They're providing a full nutritious meal to all children under 18. They actually allowed me to help some homeless families that are on the streets right now, so it's a big blessing.
The owners of Mango Mango say that although the virus is threatening their business, God has given them a bigger mission.
As local, small business entrepreneurs, it's been really tough. You know, we really don't know where we're going at this point. However, we know that what we can do is give back.
Lakeisha says she hopes that the children and their families will pay it forward.
We want them to understand that we are doing this because the love of the community, and we want them to go out and spread love too.
For us, with all of this going on, it's really important that we stay human and that we stay kind and that we treat each other well and realize that we do have each other. We have God, but we have each other.
Talia Wise, CBN News.
And that's all the time we have for now. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.